Okay, good afternoon everybody. My name is Tim Crawford from the Learning Development Service in Queen's University here in Belfast. And this afternoon I'm going to give you an overview of the learning support project that I've developed called Sight to Write. So I appreciate that many of the institutions represented here today may not have an equivalent service of learning development. So I'm going to just take a moment to give you a quick overview of that service. So the aim of it is to help students to reach their academic potential. And it's a centralised service that provides academic skills support. So what are academic skills? Well, some of them on screen include essay writing. Writing skills is a big issue for students, both at right from primary level right through to tertiary education. Referencing, which is what I'm focusing on, that this project has attempted to redress. Report writing. There's a separate team that we have of staff that deal with maths support. So for any particular students that have issues with maths or perhaps haven't done A-level maths and come into a program which requires significant knowledge and there's a gap there, then the maths team will help them with that. Other skills, time management, presentation skills, motivation, exam preparation. So this is our remit to provide this to both undergraduate and postgraduate students. How do we deliver that? We deliver it primarily through one-to-one support, whether a student volunteers to come to us or indeed might be referred to us, as well as a programme of workshops. Some are embedded within departments within individual schools in Queen's. Others are run on a generic basis. We have a so-called Tuesdays at the Library. So every Tuesday evening there will be a particular focus on an academic skill. There's accreditation for those workshops, which is called a Study Skills Certificate. And students can be awarded a Degree Plus through using that certificate. And I've put in bold here resources because we're trying to move into concentrating on electronic resources, moving away from a lot of paper-based material to the potential that there is in electronic resources. So a quick background on me. How did I get interested in this? Well, I come from a teaching background. Initially, I came to Queen's, wasn't really sure what to do, but kind of thought, oh, I'll do law, if you were mentioned earlier on. And did that, didn't really enjoy it, but did it anyway. And then after that, I went over to England and trained to be a teacher for secondary level, and came back here. I worked for 4 years in secondary level, and then joined the Queen's team when the Learning Development Service was starting, under the leadership of Paula Moran, who's here today. And at that stage there was only 2 full-time tutors, and it's developed from there to encompass like a lot of PhD assistants. So we now have around 8 of those staff that help us to deliver that. So I got interested in the potential for online resources, then did a course. I got a postgrad master's in multimedia for educational purposes. And the usefulness of that, the benefits of it, was that it equipped me with some of the skills to be able to produce a project like I'm going to share with you today. And also I have a genuine interest in e-learning for academic skills support. I see the potential benefits in using that, the accessibility of it, being there 24/7, and the mass audience that it can be available to also. So why referencing? Why such some people call it a really dull, dry topic? Well, just give you a quick overview of this. Pears and Shields, 2 academics, call referencing a lifelong skill. So why is referencing important? Well, essentially, it's trying to help people to learn how to represent what has been learned from earlier authors. And it's very useful because it can help students to substantiate the evidence for which they're basing their discussion or their argument on. So it is, in effect, a lifelong skill. In the last 10 years, there has been a significant rise in plagiarism, whether or not that is inadvertent, accidental plagiarism, or potentially deliberate as well, is something up for debate, as is the case of whether or not, in terms of the detection of plagiarism, is it software, is it using software like Turnitin, is it what's doing the job, so that students maybe have got away with plagiarism in the past, and hence that explains the rise currently. But regardless of that, there is an issue with it, and in my role as a learning development tutor, it has been an emergent concern, and students are losing marks in assignments due to erroneous and incorrect referencing. So therefore, If it is an issue, then it needs to be tackled. Perhaps the reason that it is an issue is because there is no universal system for referencing. I'm sure some of you have heard of systems like Harvard, for example. There's other ones used within Queen's, such as the Law Department uses Scola, you've got MHRA, you've got Vancouver, you've got bespoke systems for particular schools, such as electrical engineering. So this lack of universal system can present a problem for students who perhaps have not been used to referencing things when they've come from secondary level. And also, in terms of like a universal system, there's an issue even within schools and departments where if a student is doing a joint honours degree, for example, they might be using one referencing system for one assignment and in one subject, and in another subject they're asked to use a different referencing system, so it can easily cause confusion. For existing resources, I did research to see what was out there, and in terms of software, there's a lot of good software, excellent software which I would recommend. So for example, you might have heard of RefWorks, Zotero, EndNote, Cite, Mendeley. I was at a thing on QuickApp, which is a new one, about a month ago. But that software isn't really teaching students what referencing is, what plagiarism is, and showing like step-by-step guides how to reference. It's more for bibliographic referencing tools. There are many institutions within the UK and Ireland have produced resources on this, paper-based ones, online ones, but the downside to those tends to be that they're quite lackluster in nature, as they are text heavy. And therefore, that demonstrated the need for a motivating multimedia resource with the emphasis on prevention and education as opposed to chastisement, as opposed to punishment for someone having plagiarized or made a mistake. Educate students first of all in order to prevent that from occurring. Okay, so the name of this project, I chose Cite to Write. So Cite is to do with citation skills, which is part of referencing, and then little 2 is a superscript, as that's one of the conventions used in footnote systems, for example. And then by increasing and improving your citation skills, the knock-on effect is going to be improvement in your writing ability. So that was the name, justification for the name. Learning outcomes for it. To offer guidance and resources on how to reference properly, to explain rules of individual systems, because essentially it is a set of rules for each system. The students need to know what they are and know how to implement them. For the user to gain practical experience of referencing, so lots of activities for them to complete, even to check their understanding of it, and also from a variety of sources, because they're expected in terms of independent research, not just to be using all online material, but also to branch out a bit from that. For the user to understand how to format, and there's 2 main parts of this, as you'll see shortly when I demonstrate the project, in-text citations, and then for the reference list, or sometimes it's called a bibliography. And then also for them to be able to understand, to identify what plagiarism is, and discover how do you quote directly, how do you paraphrase, and how do you summarize. Because obviously it's a lot harder to be able to paraphrase somebody and use your own words to paraphrase but still reference where you got the idea from, and it would be to directly quote verbatim from a textbook. Anybody can do that. So to teach students those skills would certainly help their learning and understanding. So I'm just going to demonstrate some of the features of the site. The URL for it is qub.ac.uk/cite to write. I've got it loaded up here in Google Chrome. So this is just like an initial splash page. And then when you come to, there's a menu here, and there's an introductory section, and then obviously some of the referencing systems. So at the moment the ones implemented are Harvard, Vancouver, MHRA and Scola, as you can see there. It is multimedia in nature, so there's a lot of audio in it. The reason why I turned on the audio is because I don't want you to hear continuously whilst I'm showing you this, my voice on it. But you can control the audio from here. And then if I clicked on the introductory section, this gives a background in referencing, what it is, little activities such as when should a student reference. So if somebody's common knowledge, should it be referenced, or how do you know what is common knowledge? So you drag and drop these, and then click on next. So say if they were to get it wrong, then it would indicate that. So there's activities such as that for when it should reference. I'll just go back to this. So in terms of the learning technology, the software that I'd used for this was Adobe Flash for some elements, but primarily I use Adobe Captivate, which is really simple to use, very, very easy, and you don't really need to have any technical knowledge or expertise to use Captivate, aside from the fact that if you wanted to do some of the text input ones, you have to look at a few tutorials to learn how to do it. I also use software, Dreamweaver, for example, to design the actual website itself. So the style adopted is tutorial. Through drill and practice, they see worked examples and they're able to actually have a go at doing it for themselves. There's some multiple choice questions, there's quizzes, drag and drop activities, data input activities. So there's a variety to hopefully cater for different learning styles. There's feedback within it, both as you're going through and practicing, or they can do sample activities. I'll show you shortly some of the assessment tools being used with some lecturing staff, and they've received credit for that in module assessment. And the purpose is to stimulate attention so that they're involved in it, they're motivated, and hopefully confident then in their referencing abilities, in their referencing skills, in their writing skills. So that's really the main purpose of it in terms of learning technology. Some technical difficulties then. What were issues perhaps that I came across as going through it? Well, there's some instructional design hurdles. The structure, initially I set out just to do the Harvard system, and then I had to think, right, if this is to be expanded, make sure that the format of it would be able to incorporate other systems as well. So if you're trying to design something similar, I encourage you really to pre-plan it, do various different forms of diagrams. You would think, how could this be best structured, and it's the most intuitive for the user as well. So there were some structural issues with it, because there was so much content required planning. Audio recording, I work in an open plan office, so obviously that wasn't ideal for audio recording, so either at home or else with a particular room, but somewhere that's quiet, but it can make a difference in the location in which you record audio. So you'll notice that if I was to click on the Vancouver system, the audio would sound slightly different. It's crisper and clearer than it is in the Harvard system. But to watch out for that so it's consistent. File management, there are a lot of files because there's an individual web page for each, for everything that you see there. And I wasn't using any content management system, I was just coding it all myself or within Dreamweaver. So that can take a bit of time to get used to it. And then also for coding, for the Flash elements, you would need to know a bit of ActionScript and know how to program that. If you don't have access to that yourself, hopefully within your institution there'll be some e-learning developers that could help you with it, or have a go at learning it yourself. There are lots of YouTube videos and resources available. You could maybe teach yourself. I had the opportunity to be able to bounce ideas off a colleague of mine in the Centre for Educational Development. He's now moved to Australia, unfortunately, but he was a good soundboard just for ideas, and indeed any particular coding issues that I came across. Time intensive, if you estimate the time of a project, if it involves programming, I'd encourage you to double that time, because it is time intensive. I had developed this during the summertime when it was obviously quieter, because students aren't around, so I did spend a couple of months doing it, but it is time intensive, and I was also working on my own as well. So that can be difficult, and making sure your time management is effective. In terms of accessibility, obviously for Captivate and indeed Flash, it is Flash that's used, so there's an issue, conflict with Apple devices. Hopefully with HTML5, I'll be able to convert things so they're working and accessible then from Apple devices too. But bear that in mind if you're developing e-learning materials about how accessible they are, indeed from mobile devices also. And then for updating, just to make sure that you are consistent when you're updating, otherwise you're going to have to go back and to redo some of the other sections in it. Okay, so the actual benefit then to the learners, well, the feedback from students was very positive. I got feedback in various forms through emails, they would email through the website, or face-to-face contact, and one-to-ones perhaps, or from workshops. So we did a workshop on referencing. They would tell us what to think about it. And I also conducted an evaluation just through an online tool called QuestBack. It's kind of similar to SurveyMonkey. And feedback now was extremely positive. And Some of the quotes from students were that it helped them to resolve their queries, helped them to avoid plagiarism as well, and improve confidence in writing. So that was great just to see the difference and the help that it was to students. Feedback from staff is positive as well, in terms of the recommendations made to students, in terms of inclusion in module handbooks, promotion within the Students' Union Diary, given out to all freshers, all first years. And also was used for assessment in a few modules. So I'll just show you what I mean. And this is a Millionaire quiz, something else I developed for the site. It's in here. So, let me see. It's basically like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but it's only on Harvard referencing, and there's another one on MHR referencing. So I've changed these to phone a graduate, ask your peers 50-50. So at the start of the game, it starts off really easy with a question like, in the Harvard referencing system, the bibliography should be ordered. What's the answer? A, B, C, or D? Come on. It's B, alphabetically by surname. This is your final answer. Go ahead. And so far they can use 50-50, or they can ask the audience, they can ask the graduate, is it A? Okay, and proceed. And the assessment on this is, I know it's only worth 5% of a module, but if they got to the very end, then it asks them to input their student number, their name, and their Queen's email address, and then that's automatically forwarded into a folder within my email account, and then I just create a spreadsheet for the lecturer and tell them who all's done it, who's completed it. So tools like that, hopefully they're interactive and enjoyable for the student to complete, whilst at the same time increasing their understanding of that particular referencing system. Let's go back here, I'm almost done. So the benefit to Queen's in terms of e-maturity, well, I think that the potential target audience would be over 24,000 users, because the centralized nature, multidisciplinary nature of this product, of this project, means that it is available to everyone. And hopefully then it'll continue to grow in terms of the users and the number of people that are accessing it. From when it was launched, you'll see, I just launched at the very end of August. So for hits, they're gradually increasing. They're September, October, peaking there in November, when most students are doing assignments for assignment deadlines. Then tailing off a bit, February, kind of bit of a 1 week break, a mid-semester break, and they're starting back again March, quite a few hits on it. So I'm really pleased that for something that's been quite new, that it's been taken on board and that students are using it, therefore hopefully they're getting benefit from it because of those hits. And for future development, well, I recognise that there are a few referencing systems used in Queen's that are currently not on this project. They're not on the website, they're Site to Write. One's, say, in particular for electrical engineering. So, in theory, future development could encompass those. Also, for the list of sources for referencing, there are lots of different sources that you may need to reference, and that can vary according to the discipline, subject, pathway that the student is studying. So, for example, a drama student is going to reference different types of sources to a film student, an art student, a law student. So, rather than have the standard ones, like a book, electronic book, journals, newspapers, reports, etc., those could be expanded as well. So there is scope for opportunities to do that. So I would welcome any of you to contact me. This is my direct line number, my email address, tim.crawford. That's the web address for Learning Development Service. You can link directly to the referencing tool from there. But please get in touch if you've got ideas about how to improve this, or you want some advice about taking on a similar project to embark on that. And all that remains for me to say is thank you for listening, and I'd welcome any questions that you might have. Okay, thanks for your time.